Welcome to DAPs Stories. As some of you may or may not know, I'm actually a huge fan of history. And for me, history isn't always about the big events, explosions, battles, wars, new kings, presidents, whatever. It's also about the people that live everyday lives. And we have found over Christmas break a person who lived an everyday life that's totally the American dream. His parents came over from overseas, he grew up in a small farm town, and it's a story we found interesting that we hope you'll find interesting too. So this will be our first edition of DAPs Stories, where we tell history from another point of view.
The earliest memory I have is when I was probably 8 months or 9 months old. My sister tells the story that, and this has been told again down in our family, that she said to her mother one day, "Mama, I think Bobby ate a fly." And they said, "What makes you think so?" She said, "He's smacking his lips like it." Now that was my earliest memory when I was 8, 9 months old. My mother immigrated from Austria-Hungary in about 1890 and came to this country by way of Canada and came and worked for a farm family in northeastern Nebraska. My father met her. He was working for a farmer, as I recall, and he met her at a schoolhouse dance, and that's about all I know of the early romance of my father and mother. They were married there, and my older brother Verl was born in that area. And he was a beautiful baby. And apparently there were lots of Indians in that area then. And my mother had horrible fears of the Indians kidnapping him. So my father took her back to Wisconsin, his home area, Montfort, Wisconsin, and Boscobel, Wisconsin, and southern Wisconsin, and farmed there. And Lizzie and George and Seward were born while they lived in and around Montfort, Wisconsin. Then they moved to Cavalier, North Dakota, and lived there several years. And then in the spring of 1911, they moved to Montana. And my father and George and Verl, my two oldest brothers, moved out with all of the things on the train and then located in Webo, Montana.
You were born
in the city of Webo, Montana. And the story is told about the date of my birth that the older brothers and sisters were hastened to a neighbor's house, and Aunt Mary took care of them. And a man with a black case, came in a black suit and a black case, came into our house. And 2 or 3 hours later, the older brothers and sisters saw this man leave, and they went in, and here was Bobby, had been born.
Now, how'd you get the name Bobby?
Well,
Or Robert?
I was named Robert La Follette. That was my name, Robert La Follette Laird, because my father came from Wisconsin and was a great favorite. Robert La Follette, a senator then, was a great favorite of my dad's, and so he named me Robert La Follette Laird.
Mm-hmm. But that's not what you kept.
No, later on I dropped the La Follette and just kept Robert Laird until I got in high school. And then I wanted an initial that would go with Robert Laird, R-H, so I could write R kind of in one swoop. And I tried various letters, A, B, C, and H was the letter that I fell on, because I could make the R, and then the left line of the H was the right leg of the R, and then I could come like this, L. So just lifting my pen once, I could write RHL.
So that's how you got your middle.
My middle initial, and that has given me no end of trouble. Years later, when I applied for my Social Security, the first person that interviewed me, or that asked me questions, wanted to know, she asked me, what's your name? And I said, Robert H. Laird. She says, what's your middle name? And I explained that I didn't have any middle name. And I went through this story, explaining it to her. She wouldn't believe me, so she sent me to the next, her superior. And I went through the same rigmarole with her superior, and she had the same reaction as the first one. So finally I had to go to the top man in the office explaining that before they were satisfied.
So, you're born June 22nd?
1911.
In Webo.
In Webo, Montana.
Webo's right next to the North Dakota border up there.
Yes. You see, my father and 2 older brothers had moved to Montana from Cavalier, North Dakota, earlier that spring, I think in January, February, during the winter, and brought all the machinery and furnishings of the house and the cattle and the horses on a train. And then they went out 10 miles from Webo, where the land was that my father had bought for our home. And then my mother came, I think in May or early June, with the 4 sisters and brothers immediately older than me, Susie, Tressie, and Joe. And so we lived in town until they had the house built out on that farm. So I was born in Webo.
You were actually born in the town. Does the house still exist that you were born in?
No, I'm sure not.
Yeah.